Hello, hello, my friends. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. Welcome to my segment on Craft Around the Clock. I'm Mindy with the Pink Llama. Get on in here and say hello. If you're seeing this portion, it's most likely the replay. So hashtag replay. Say hello and all the good things. I hope you're having a great day. Let me get things pulled up. I've got a fun one planned today. There's my Tracy sister. Hello, hello. How are you today? Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing me in. Cynthia, good morning, good morning. How are you, my sweet friend? Hello, Carol, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. I am Mindy with the Pink Llama. This is my segment on Craft Around the Clock. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. Let's have a good, almost halfway through our week, or well, we are halfway through our week. So let's have some fun. Get on in here and say hello. Let me know you're here. Hello, my sweet girl, checking at the white elephant. Shannon is here. Tracy's here. How are y'all today? Stacy, good morning. Good morning, everybody. All right, let's get started. I got a lot to get done. I've got a fun one planned. This is one that is very similar to something we've done before, but it's different. Good morning, Kay. Hello, hello. Oh, I got things falling. I don't know why or how, but they're falling. Hi, Mom. All right, I'm going to show you what we're making today. We are making little bunnies like this today. So last year, if you remember, I made these on bed springs, the bunny heads on bed springs. This year, they're on a little pedestal. Oh my goodness, how cute. And then look at his glasses. So we're going to be making one similar to this. I did change things up a little bit. We're going to be making ears like this, but we're making one a little more vintage than this today. But they're just on a little, and I'll show you what it is. So this is what I've done so far. I've taken, where did I put those? These little half foam balls. These are, you get these at Hobby Lobby. They're the 1 1/4 inch. So 0.7 inch by 1.4. So like 3/4 by 1 and almost a half is what they are. You get these at Hobby Lobby. Just a little half ball. So I took 2 of them and I used my good tight bond and I just glued them on in the center. And then I've drilled 2 holes in the top. We need those for the ears. And I painted the base. This is what it starts out as. This is what I've done so far. Hi, Cindy. Hi, Mary. Good morning. Hello, Kay. Good morning. So I just painted the bottom and glued on the little half foam balls. Get these at Hobby Lobby, Home Depot. They're like a baluster cap is what they're called, I think. Yeah, Home Depot or Lowe's. You can get them probably on Amazon. You can find them a lot of places. How are you, sweet Mary with Ocean Breeze and me? Hello, Lori. How are you? So that's what we've done so far. I had to do a little prep work because it does take a minute to do some things. Next, I'm going to work on the ears. I've got 1 ear done, and this is what the center of this one's going to look like. So I'll tell you how we do this. What I do is I make my ears, and that's just, you take your wire to the length you want. For my ears are approximately, So from the tip to right here before it starts to twist is 6 inches. That's a good, I think that I like my bunnies to have some big ears. I think that's a good length. Aren't they adorable? I think that's a good length for these, but I like big ears. Hey, sweet Keffany, I love you big too. Thank you for sprinkling. Thank you for being here. I hope you're doing good. Anyway, about 6 inches. And I do my wire about 15 inches long. So I'll take a piece of wire about 15 inches long. I match up the ends, find the middle, and then I'll pinch it like so. Let me just show you real quick. So my ends are matched up. I pinched it, and then all I do is I just twist the ends with my fingers. Whoa. I've got so much stuff all over my desk right now. And then you can take a pair of pliers to help you twist it. Now I use, this wire is very easy to work with. And you don't want your ends frayed like that. You want to make sure you clamp your ends down so it's all straight. Like so. See that? So that it'll go down in the hole easy. So once you have that, you just kind of shape your ear. And I do all of my wire the same length. The ears, they're not going to come out perfectly the same, and that's fine. Hi, Lori with Lavender and Lace. How are you, my sweet sister? They're not going to come out perfectly the same. They're not going to look the same, but that's, this shirt is too big for me. I shouldn't have worn it. It's driving me crazy. I apologize. That's the fun of it. These bunnies don't need to be perfect, and they're very forgiving. So that's how you do the ears. Very simple. So once you have the shape of your ear and the size, if you want to do a colored fabric in the center, and I'm going to tell you how to do both ways. If you want to do a colored fabric in the center, this is how I did mine. I took my wire ear and I just used a pencil. And what I did was I traced around my ear with my pencil on the outside of the wire, not the inside. Traced around my ear, and then when I cut it out, Lord, have I already lost, oh, it's right there. When I cut it out, I cut just a little bit bigger. Can you see? So I still followed the same shape, but I cut just a little bit bigger so that we can wrap this around just a little bit. And if it doesn't wrap around, that's fine, as long as the wire is on the inside of the fabric. And then I just take low temp. You'll burn your fingers off otherwise. Hi, sweet Christina. How's that grandbaby doing? How are you today? Okay, so what I do is I take my low temp glue. You don't want to burn your fingers off with high temp. And I just put it on my fabric, and I kind of follow my pencil lines to glue it on. And then if you have enough excess fabric, you can kind of wrap your edges. You don't have to wrap your edges on this part. Not at all. As long as it's, and I like mine kind of tight. And see, on this one side, I'm not going to be able to wrap my edges. That is just fine. As long as I can glue. And if you follow that pencil line, your wire should fall right into it. And then I just make sure I'm pulling it tight. And where I can wrap, I will wrap. Very simple. And there's probably a much easier way to do this. This is just my way, what I found to be the easiest. And this part, this back part, it doesn't need to look pretty. You just don't want to have really thick globs of glue. And you can also take and run your glue up your wire. And this is why I'm saying use a low temp glue tool, because you're going to get glue on your fingers. I did so many of these bunnies last year, the ones on the bed springs. It's kind of the same concept though. A little bit different, but the same. We used foam balls for the heads for our bed spring bunnies last year. So there's a few more steps in that. And then putting it on the bed spring. These ones are a little bit simpler. You can still make them pretty vintage and rustic without a bed spring. And these little baluster caps, baluster, however you say that. And then you can kind of stretch your wire back out. And we have the center part of our ear. Now it's not perfect, doesn't need to be. Now this, I'm using long pile Sherpa. You can get it at Hobby Lobby. Or, you know, like this one. This one's a short pile Sherpa. I love this, but I love the long pile as well. So this is long pile Sherpa. Same concept with cutting this out. But when you're cutting your Sherpa, you want to cut just the back. You don't want to cut through the front because you want your edges, you don't want your edges clean cut. You want them to fray out. So it was the same exact concept with this. But when I drew, let me start over. When I cut this out, I cut out just a little bit wider because this one is going to go on the opposite side, but we want to, so it's going on the back like so. We're not gluing on this side. What we're doing is we're going to center it up the best we can, and this is very forgiving and it does stretch. So we want to center it up the best we can. And I'll get it all stretched out here. Looks like I need to pull it up just a smidge. I didn't cut this one near as wide as I should have, but it's okay. You can kind of squish your ear in a little bit. It's easy to work with. All right, y'all with me? Y'all with me? The rabbit head, I made them, but this thing right here is what it's made out of. This is just, you can get them at Home Depot or Lowe's. It's just a baluster cap of, you know, it's like what would go on the end of a railing or something going downstairs or something like that. That's what it is, or on a porch. It's just a baluster cap. Okay. Now, on the front side of your colored fabric, you're going to take the glue and right on the very edge is where you're going to run it. And then you're going to fold over your Sherpa onto your colored fabric. So it kind of, you're wanting it to kind of make a border. You're wanting it to look like this. You're wanting it to border your colored fabric. If you didn't want to do colored fabric for the inside, I'll explain how. Let me get this on here real quick. I will explain how to do it without. Very simple. So as I'm folding my Sherpa over, I'm kind of pinching it to kind of hide the backing. I want the furry part to kind of stick down, but I still want it to be, you know, a little bit wispy too. I don't want it to be completely matted down. And this long pile Sherpa for this is a little harder to work with than the short pile. The short pile isn't as messy. So you just want to make sure your backing is hid when you're folding it over. That's all I was worried about, is just making sure it looked good. And then you just go down both sides. And the only painting in this project is just the bottom of your cap. And I pre-painted just so we can get this done, because there's a few steps to it. And it does take, they don't take a whole lot to make. They're really easy. Last year when I did the bunny heads on the bed springs, I made, I think it was like 60 pairs of them. I made a lot of bunnies. They were so popular at the shop that I have my little booth at. I was bunnied out last year, and then here I am starting it again this year. So that's all you do, is you just fold it over, and then just make sure your backing isn't showing. Like right there, can you see right here? I have backing showing. All I'll do is just take just a little tiny bit of glue. Not a lot, because you don't want it to be matted down. Take just a little bit, and I fold the fur kind of over it. I don't really push it down. I just kind of fluff it over it so it'll kind of stick to it. That's all you do. But honestly, I would highly, highly recommend, if you're going to make these, until you get a feel for how to do them. Happy Wednesday, Lori. How are you? Thank you for being here. I would start with the short pile Sherpa before you move to the long, so you can kind of get a feel of how, you know, you do it, and or how you like to do it. Find your way of doing it. And then move to the long pile Sherpa. I should have done the short pile. I wasn't thinking when I was prepping. But just make sure that backer's hidden. And you can even trim it off if you want to. And then you want to look at your edges and make sure, because on this long pile, you can see the backer if it folds over a certain way. So I just make sure I don't need to glue any more pieces. And then we have our two little ears. Oh, thank y'all. Thank you, thank you. All right, now let's move on. My nose is going to be itching like crazy anytime I mess with this fur, and Hello, new creations. How are you? Welcome in. Hello, Tracy. Oh, this shirt's gonna have to be donated. It's too big and it's driving me crazy. So I don't have... Hello, Mary from Iowa. First time watching. Well, welcome in, Mary. Thank you for being here. My name is Mindy. My page is the Pink Llama TX. This is my segment on Craft Round the Clock. And we are making a cute little bunny. We're going to make one kind of like this today. But you can also make ones like this. That's what we're doing today. So thank you for being here. Oh, y'all, thank you so much. Y'all are being so sweet. Unwind and create. Good afternoon or good morning. Thank you for being here. All right. So I don't have exact measurements on what size of fabric to put over the head. You're just going to have to kind of play with it, but I'll tell you the dimensions of this, and I already know I'm going to have to trim some off. I have not quite figured out my dimensions yet. So this is about a 10, it's about a 10 by 7. I know it's already too big. It was a scrap piece, and I'm just going to go with it. So again, using your low temp glue. You know, I don't like to use hot glue a lot, but with this project, Adele, thank you so much for being here. Welcome, welcome. Again, I am Mindy with the Pink Llama TX. This is my segment in Craft Round the Clock. And we're making some cute little bunnies. Look at all the new people in today. Thank you all so much for being here. I hope you like what you see and you'll join us and stay and have some fun with us. Oh, thank you all so much. All right, so this is about a 10 by 7. It was just a scrap piece. I know I'm going to have to trim some, and it's fine. So, the long side I put over the front. And we're just going to glue right down here at the bottom. Now, y'all know I don't like to use hot glue a lot because it doesn't always stick that well. But on this project, it would be really hard to use anything but hot glue. You could add, thank y'all so much. You could add like a permanent glue and then a hot glue. I'm not going to worry about that because this Sherpa, once it gets glued to it, it sticks. So I'm not going to worry too much. But I do use other glue on this besides hot glue for like the eyes and, you know, getting the ears and stuff like that. So I'm going to kind of just eyeball and try, you know, look, it doesn't have to be perfect again because Sherpa is very forgiving. So I just eyeball and find the center of my Sherpa on the long side. And I put it in, I look, you know, in between my cheeks. And I go to the very bottom of the top circle part. And I just put down some glue. And then the very edge of my Sherpa, the backing, the very edge of the backing, we're gluing backing only, we're not gluing the fur itself. I just glue that down, like so. See how I did that? That's all I did. And that's all we're doing is just kind of going around and gluing around the bottom. That is it. But when we get to the cheeks, now I glue about halfway around on both sides, and then we're going to define our cheeks out. Again, remember you're just gluing the backing, the very edge of the backing. And this, again, this is why you only want to cut the backing when you're cutting this to size, because you don't want straight edges. You want it to be able to fluff out like that at the bottom. So now that we've gone about halfway around, and I already see I'm gonna be short in the back, but that's fine because Sherpa's forgiving. We're gonna be able to fold it around and it'll be just fine. So I'm gonna take my glue and I'm gonna glue in between my little balls, underneath both cheeks, and then at the top. So we're just kind of outlining our cheeks. That's the balls. And then I'm pulling my Sherpa back as tight as I can without ripping it. And then I'm going to take my fingers and smash that Sherpa down around and in between. This just helps define your cheeks. Especially through, you know, the center of the balls. You really want to make sure you push around there really good. Now on this long pile Sherpa, you don't see as much definition as you do on the short pile. You can really see the definition on the short pile. So once you have your cheeks defined and glued, then you just continue to glue around. So from the front, you know, I take my front and I just keep gluing around the back. You are going to have this on top. It's fine. It's perfectly fine. So I just keep gluing around. We're going to have to trim up our Sherpa. I feel like I'm a broken record, but I want y'all to understand how easy this is. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, honestly, I could take a bunch of like these small scraps that I have and place them on here, except for, you know, on the front part. You wouldn't want to do that because you really want to define those cheeks and stuff out. But I could take a bunch of scraps and just glue them on as long as my edges aren't straight cut. Thank you, Cindy. As long as my edges aren't straight cut, I could glue them on and hide my seams really easy. So you want some sharp fabric scissors to do any of your trimming and cut the backing only. I can't stress that enough. Backing only. And then you just want to pull it off. Don't want to cut it, because we want those fluffy edges. I had someone last year make one of these. Now, I didn't have them. They made one. And I'm not going to say they copied me because I'm pretty sure this is not my original. I'm sure it's been made. I'm sure this has been done a million times before. Maybe just a little bit different. Hey, sweet Jamie. So I'm not going to say she copied. But she was selling in the same spot as I was. She saw my idea, loved it, and made them, which is fine. I don't care. It's not my original. You do you. Well, I felt really bad because her little bunnies didn't sell only because you could see all of her seams. She straight cut through. Her bunnies were adorable if you weren't looking too close. Now, I'm really not trying to be mean at all. Like, I was really hoping she would sell out before me, because that's just how I am. I always root for everyone around me. But she had cut straight through her Sherpa, and you could see the seams. So they didn't look as clean. That was the only thing I could think of. All right, so now we have, you know, this big mess up here on top. What I do, and yeah, I'm telling you, still have not perfected the size for this head yet. The size of fabric you need. But I know a lot of this is going to have to be trimmed off. It's way too long. So I'm just going to trim it off. If I trim too much, I'm not worried about it. I can fix it, because I'm just trimming my backing, and I'm trimming all the way around. And then I just pull it off. Now our goal here is to get this whole head covered. And if you have an easier way to do it, please do it. When it comes to covering circles, I've not mastered it yet. Now you don't want any hot glue in your holes up here. No hot glue in your ear holes, because we need to be able to find them. We need to be able to find them to put our ears in. Got just a smidge more I need to trim up here. And I will, by the time the Easter season is done, I will have mastered these. And I will be able to tell you exact sizes and everything. But I don't remember from last year, and this is a little different than last year. So I just trimmed up, and then I just kind of, you know, met my seams together. And we have a covered bunny head. It's all covered. And then I just like to run my hands through, kind of separate, just to make sure I got everything glued down. There's no funky seams that didn't get glued. And then that's what we have now. So now we're going to go back to our ears, and I have some little itty bitty sharp scissors. So I know that my ear holes are kind of centered. Okay, there's one. So what I do is I lost it. There it is. So I separate my Sherpa. I don't want to cut the fur part. I kind of pull it back, and then what I do is I just take the end of my scissors and stick it down in there. But I have a small pair that are kind of sharp, and then I just kind of trim just a little bit. See what I do? Just trim just a little bit so I can see that hole. And then I take my tight bond and I put the tip of my tight bond over that hole, and I squirt the glue in until it starts coming out the top. And then I take just a smidge of hot glue and put over as well. And then I just take one of my ears and I lift up the fur and I jab that wire down in that hole. Now, if anyone wants to make these and you cannot get, you don't have a drill to drill the holes, or you can't get these and you don't have a drill to drill the holes, I'm sure you could do these floppy eared. I'm not sure how else you could do it without drilling a hole to get it to stick really, really well. I can drill these and sell these, but it will not come with all the Sherpa and all the stuff. It would just be that and that only, because I'm willing to drill them for y'all. And I would not, it would just be shipping and the cost of the ball. Because I know there's a lot of people who would want to do this but don't have the wood tools. But I think I'm going to try to make a floppy ear version of this as well. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to find my hole on the other side, and I'm going to punch my scissors down in there. And then just trim a little space so I can get in there with my glue. Now when I'm doing this, I'm only cutting the backing. I'm not cutting that Sherpa because I want that Sherpa to stay long. And I move it away from the hole. I move it away from the hole like that. So then I can fluff it back up around the ear. So again, take your tight bond. Fill up that hole until it starts to come out. Then I just take a little hot glue. Lift up your fur. And jab it down in. And then I just leave them alone. But see how cute already? So cute. We're almost out of time. So let me get to the next few parts, okay? It's really simple. On Amazon, I ordered these little felt balls. And I just cut them in half. That's all I do. I take my scissors and cut them in half. And then for your whiskers, I just use wire. And I do mine about 6 inches long. I take 2 wires about 6 inches long. And I twist them together. I find the center and twist them together in the center. And then I curl the edges. And that's it. And then I kind of, in the center of them, I kind of push it in. And that's what we have. So then what I do, again, I lift up the fur. I don't want to glue over top of the fur. I want to get to the backing. Anytime I'm gluing, I want to get to the backing part. So I find the center of my cheeks, and I'm at the very top, right here, the very top center of my cheeks. I move that away to find the backing. Have your half of your nose ready. So then I put some hot glue right there on the backing. And then I stick my whiskers in there. And then right over top, I put my nose. Whoop. And I got quite a bit of excess glue that came out one side. That's fine. Don't panic. It'll be okay. I have enough excess Sherpa that I'm going to be able to hide that. So I've got my nose on there, and I kind of push the edges of that ball. I want to push that down to kind of hide it. You don't want to see a raw edge. And then I pull up the Sherpa around it. And then that's what you have. See? And I leave the whiskers. I don't mess with them. I just leave them. Okay? You want to put... I just take some blush from Dollar Tree, wherever. We've got 5 minutes. And I just put a little bit of blush on the cheeks. And you can do bright pink. This is like a taupey mauve pink color. And I just get a little color on those cheekers. This was my favorite color to use last year. And it was brand new last year when I was doing all these bunnies for the shop. So you can tell I did a lot of bunnies. Okay. We have some cheekers. All right. Next is eyes. Where did I put them? So at Hobby Lobby, you can buy, these are like the brown ones, and they're the small, they're not the extra small, they're just a small doll eye is what they are. But they do have the little screw thing in the back of it. I don't want that. I did use that last year and stick through my phone. But I'm just going to take my pliers and snip that off. So I have essentially a flat back. And I think you can, I just had these left over from last year. I think you can get flat back eyes. But mine are brown, they're not black. You could just use black. And then I take my gel super glue. And what I do first is I set my eyes on my bunny. I just set them on there right over top of the fur to get a feel for where I want to put them. And I like them there. I think that's cute. So what I do is I take the eye and I kind of move it around in circles so it makes a little bit of a space. It gets to that backing. You want to move all that fur out of the way so it gets to the backing. Same thing with this side. Move that fur out of the way. I'm getting to the backing. And in the long pile and the short pile, you can get to the backing on both. And then once I get to the backing, I stick both of my eyes in there, back on, and make sure they're placed where I want them to be. And then if they are, thank y'all, I take my gel super glue and put a little on there. And then I stick the eye on, and then I immediately lift up the fur around it just to make sure I don't have too much underneath, because you want this to frame the eyeball. You want your fur to be framed with the fur. You want your eye to be framed with the fur. Whoa. Oh, man. I just got super glue on my glass top. Oh, well. It'll come off. So just kind of hold your eye and lift up that fur around it just to make sure you're good. And then I go to making my bows. And at this point, you can make your bows any way you want to. I do very simple bows. Oh, let me get this super glue off my glass. I do very simple bows. Just like that. So let me explain how I do it. We'll use this. This isn't the fabric I'm going to use for him. I haven't got it cut. So I just take it the width that I want. And I fold it over like so. It's not the perfect length that I want, but I like a pretty good size bow tie on my bunny. Whoop, I cut way too much. Let me trim this down just a little bit. So I'll explain how I do this. I kind of meet them in the middle and overlap them in the middle, the back part. And then all I do is I squish it down like that to see, is that a good size bow tie? It's perfect for me. And then I just take some glue and glue those two end pieces together. And then I take some hemp cord. We're almost done, y'all. Let me get this explained and then I'll let y'all go. But thank you all so much for being here. I take some hemp cord and then just tie in the center. Y'all, Miss Lisbeth with Cottage Caboodle, she is up after me and she is probably on right now. So if you want to go and watch her. And then what I'll do is I'll take another strip and fold it around the center, you know, like that. And then you have your little bow tie for the boy. And for the girl, same concept, but I do two different colors. And they go on her ears. They'll go on her ears. On her, she's getting a bow on either side. And then she'll have a bow down here on the bottom. But this is what he's going to look like. I just need to go to Hobby Lobby and get more glasses. The only difference is he has color in his ears, so there's different ways to do it. But it's pretty much the same concept if you want to do color in the ears or fur, either way. So here's our little bunnies. I will be definitely getting a picture posted. Y'all, if you will, please keep my sweet mama in your prayers. She had an allergic reaction last night. And she's doing good. She's fine. But she needs to be kept in the prayer. She can figure out what it was that caused it. So that never ever happens again. Aren't they all so cute? All right, y'all. Miss Lisbeth is on right now. So go watch her. Thank y'all so much for being here. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you. If y'all have any questions, just send me a message. I will be happy to answer. And I'm probably going to be doing a video to put on my YouTube of these bunnies because I know y'all love them. You want to see a bed spring one too, Miss Natalie? Okay, I can redo that one. I mean, Miss Adele, I can redo the bed spring bunny too. So I'll get some videos of those made hopefully this week because the hubby comes home next week for vacation. So, all right, go watch Miss Elizabeth. Have a great day. I love y'all. Be safe, and I'll see you very soon. Bye, guys.